Hello everyone, my name is Patrick, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the Street Fighter V story mode that was released just recently. Now to preface this video, there are going to be spoilers, so just to let you know about that ahead of time, now let's get going. To give you a brief overview of what the story of Street Fighter V is about, Shadowloo, the terrorist organization that has basically threatened the world and all that, has decided to build 12 huge EMP grenades the size of the moon that everyone calls black moons. And their plan is to basically detonate them all so that all power all over the world will go out, which will cause mass hysteria, which will somehow fuel M. Bison and increase his power. Because apparently he's fueled by, quote, negative emotions. But luckily, the moons can only be activated by keys in the form of chess pieces that have been spread by one hacker all around the world before Shadowloo could detonate the EMP grenades. Knowing of this, Karen Kanzuki feels that it is her responsibility to round up all the Street Fighters and get the chess pieces before M. Bison and Shadowloo can. So it's basically a race to see who can get all the chess pieces first. Now there are only really two kind of twists in the story. Firstly, Ryu has been sidelined due to he's trying to still control the Dark Hado inside of him, and Nikali, a new character, is running amok trying to kill every single fighter he can. And that's just a basic sum up of the story. It's full of a shit ton of plot holes, and I'll go into those later, but firstly I'd like to cover things that I actually liked about the story. Firstly, during almost every single fight, the characters will actually talk to one another and comment on each other on their past, their backstories with each other, their fighting styles, mistakes that they made, stuff like that. So I thought that was a really neat touch that they actually talk to each other while they fight. It makes it more of a story and less of just two guys, like, story, fight, story. It keeps like the story feel like it keeps going in a single flow rather than it's just broken up by action every 2 seconds. Now, something I liked about the story personally is it got me into Rashid as a character. Now, when I first saw Rashid, I didn't like his character design at all. I thought he looked really stupid, and his fighting style was alright. I was never really a big fan of it. But the story actually sold him to me as a character. Now I actually like Rashid. In fact, I think he's one of my favorite Street Fighters due to that story mode, so I thought that was pretty cool. The SF5 story mode also ties into Street Fighter 3, which I personally like because it's one of my favorite Street Fighters of all time. You know, it's got characters like Alex, Urien, Ibuki, and even a surprise cameo by Gil at the end, setting up that, yes, definitely, after SF5 is SF3. The voice acting in the story mode was definitely top-notch. You know, Capcom, a lot of people said that they cut a lot of corners releasing it early, and they really did, but the voice acting was definitely not one of the corners they cut. The voice actors in the story mode definitely did a very good job with the talking scenes and not just going, Sonic, boom, Hadouken at each other during the actual fights. It turns out that, like, they can do an actual good job, like, talking to each other in a direct narrative as well. And something neat that I thought that they added in was the inclusion of Bison's dolls. Now, for those of you who don't know, Bison's dolls are basically his mind slaves, and they're like his top-tier mind slaves that he has do like special tasks for him and stuff. But we've never seen all of them in a game before until now. We get to see every single doll, and I thought that was really neat. Unfortunately, those are all the positives. Yep, that was everything good about the story. So now I'll be moving on to the negatives, which is what most of this video is going to be. And I'm going to start by covering all the plot holes that I noticed. Now, there might be more plot holes, I don't know, but these are just all the ones that I personally saw while I was playing the game. Firstly, how the fuck is Nash alive? Yeah, I get that he was brought back to life by, like, science or magic or whatever, but it's never really explained how they brought him back to life, or really why. They just kind of said that they needed him to kill Bison and didn't really explain why that was, like why it had to be him specifically, or that he had any distinct power that would defeat Bison. Yeah, he can absorb energy, but at the same time, not that much. Like, only about a fireball's worth of energy. So how could he like absorb all of Bison's energy if that was indeed their plan. It didn't really make sense either way. Secondly, why the fuck does Ryu still have the Dark Hado inside of him? I thought that's what he conquered in Street Fighter 4. I thought that's what his ending was supposed to represent, that he got rid of the Dark Hado inside him. He found inner peace. It felt like they were just kind of dragging this out to make more conflict for the story as to why, like, and to come up with a reason as to why Ryu, the strongest fighter, couldn't be there to solve all their problems right away. Third, who the fuck is Nikali? Like, yeah, I get that he's supposed to be like some sort of ancient god or whatever who shows up in times when warriors are needed, but it's never really explained why he does that or, like, why he really does anything. He wants to devour warriors. Why? Why the fuck does he want to do that? His character motivation is never explained, and in fact, he doesn't really even have a character. He just goes, and then gets beat the shit out of like a chump. Fourth, why the fuck does Bison show mercy? What I mean by that is, there's a point in the story mode, fairly early on in fact, where Bison and all of his lieutenants are at a bank for some reason. I guess they were robbing it. I thought they were already rich. I don't see why they were robbing banks. But anyway, while this is going on, Chun-Li, Guile, and Cammy show up, and they are completely outmatched. They get fucking destroyed by M. Bison and his crew, and then they fucking run away. And then M. Bison, instead of like giving chase to the only people that could stop his plan, is like, no, hold back. Why? He could get rid of all of his opposition at like the same time, but he decides not to for like no reason. And they even say at this point in time that his enemies could not be weaker and he and his allies could not be stronger, but yet he's just like, no, fuck it, just let him go. Another thing that I noticed is, why the fuck does Karen have more power than the US government? Like, the US government for the most part just kind of sits in a basement and goes on about like, sir, the Black Moons are fucking doing shit, and then their commander's just like, I don't know what to do. And meanwhile, Karen is just rounding up all the Street Fighters, including Guile, who takes orders from her. What? I thought Guile was supposed to be a high-ranking official. Also, how did that one programmer manage to get every single key single-handedly and mail them out without Shadowloo even noticing? Or doing anything about it? Like, they don't notice until it's already done and the mail's already been delivered. Like, not even like, what? They've been mailed? Oh, we have to intercept them or whatever. No. Only once all the pieces have been sent out and received do Shadowloo actually go, oh, wait a second, the important shit's gone, what do we do? Another question I have is, where are all the other Street Fighters during this time of crisis? Like, the entire Earth is literally in peril, but other Street Fighters such as Cody or Guy or fucking Law couldn't be bothered to show up for whatever reason. And it's not even like they had a reason for why they couldn't be there, it's just they're never even talked about. It's never even like, well, where's this guy, where's that guy, or whatever. It's just like, who can fucking say? Now, another problem I have is, how did Ryu gain control of the Dark Hado? Like, at one point in the story, he's just, like, we don't see him for a while because he says, I have to master the Dark Hado. And then he comes back, like, almost when the story's over, and he's like, I've done it. And it's like, it happened off screen? You're not even going to show us how the fuck he did it? I guess we're just supposed to assume that he punched shit a lot and was just like, I did it. Whatever. Now, another problem I have is really late in the story, where Feng, Bison's number 2, is hanging over like a pit of lava, and then he gets like dragged down inside and falls into the pit of lava. Then one scene later, he comes back and walks off screen like just holding his tummy, like, ow, I got beaten up. Like, how the fuck did he survive falling into lava? He's not even like a superpowered being like Bison. He's just a guy who dips his hand in poison. Unless he poisoned the lava, I don't really see how he could have survived that. And finally, probably one of the biggest plot holes in the story is, how the fuck did Abel become an undercover agent? They know who he is! They know who Abel is! They know who his friends are! They know who he works with! How did he become an undercover agent? And it's not even like he wore a mustache or anything like that. He just put on a hat. And they were like, oh yeah, it's a different guy. Let's just let him into our gang. Alright. Fucking nonsense. And those were just the plot holes in the story. Now I'm going to move on to the actual problems with the story mode itself. Now, one of the biggest problems I had when playing the game is jump cuts. Jump cuts are fucking everywhere. Like, it jump cuts literally every 5 seconds, and there's load times of about 10 seconds between every single jump cut. And sometimes, like, it'll cut within the same scene. Like, sometimes it'll be this character talking, jump cut to another character talking in the same scene where a jump cut was completely unnecessary. It makes no sense, and it fucking makes the story drag on forever, as well as be incoherent. Another problem is that it switches characters way too often. They should have just done what NetherRealm did, which is you play as one character for 4 fights in a row, so you get used to that character and you understand, okay, this is what this character is about. And you have an idea of what he's supposed to be, and then you can, like, decide for yourself whether you or not you want to play with him in, like, the future or whatever. Street Fighter was just like, nah, okay, so you'll be Ryu, then you'll be Charlie, then you'll be Ryu again, maybe, then you'll be Chun-Li, then you'll be, like, Fang for 2 fights, then you'll be Karen for, like, 1 fight, and then she'll take a fight off, and then she'll fight twice again. It's like, it's all over the fucking place, so by the end, you have no idea what any of the characters play like. On top of that, the fights are only 1 round apiece, which means that you have even less time to play with them to figure out what the fuck you're supposed to be able to do with them. Now, another problem with the story itself is Street Fighter has a lot of good guys to a few bad guys. And this is a problem because it means that you're just going to be fighting the same bad guys over and over and over and over again. And maybe, like, 2 heroes will fight because of some sort of misunderstanding or bullshit like that. And if that's not happening, then you're just fighting generic henchmen. And the generic henchmen themselves wouldn't be so bad, except for the fact that they just stand there and they die in, like, 4 punches. So what was even the point of fighting them? Another problem that I found is that sometimes voices and sounds will not be synced up properly. And I'm not talking about, like, when their lips don't match their words, because I recognize that it's like a Japanese game and so it's supposed to be like an anime or whatever. Like, you know, you don't complain about an anime not matching the lips. I'm talking about clear-cut times when, like, an explosion should have gone off and it was, like, a couple seconds late. Or, like, one, for instance, that I noticed in particular that was really bad is there's a part where DiCaprio screams 3 times in a row, and the first scream is completely silent, and then she screams twice, and those are synced, and then when she falls over and her mouth is completely closed, she screams a 3rd time. Great job. Another thing that I saw that was pretty liable to happen, although it didn't happen all that often, is that textures for backgrounds and certain characters will just not load. So you'll just have a completely textureless character, never a main character, typically like side characters, like henchmen or whatever, but it's still, like, they'll just be completely textureless, and it'll look weird. And it's not even like it'll load in, like, during the cutscene or whatever. It's like they're just like that for the whole cutscene. Another huge problem with the story mode is clipping issues. Everyone clips through everything and everyone else. For instance, there's a part where Balrog picks up, like, one of the chess pieces with his boxing glove, and it's, like, clipping the fuck through his boxing glove. Sometimes characters will, like hands will just clip through each other. Their hair will clip into them, stuff like that. It's just crazy non-stop clipping issues. Speaking of the hair, though, the character's hair will go fucking apeshit. Not just with clipping, it'll, like, flip around everywhere, and sometimes it'll be, like, draped over a person and then it just boosh, fly out or whatever. It's just crazy. Like, the hair just goes everywhere and it looks crazy and dumb. Another problem with the story mode is you go back to different stages like 5 different times a piece. Like, for instance, there's a part where they go to the Shadowloo base, then they retreat, then they go back to the Shadowloo base, then they retreat, and then they even say, well, I guess it's time to go back to the Shadowloo base. We gotta get out of here. Well, I guess we gotta go back to the Shadowloo base. It was just lazy, because they didn't have enough stages to make, like, a smooth transition, like they go from here to here to here to here. It's like, well, we gotta go back here, and then we gotta go back to that place, and then we gotta go back to where we started, back to the other place, back to the Shadowloo base, back to India, back to the Shadowloo base, back to Russia. Come on. Like, NetherRealm in Mortal Kombat 10 purposefully shortened their story because they didn't want to look ridiculous like Street Fighter did in this game, because they knew that they didn't have enough stages to warrant, like, a 10-hour game or whatever. I'm sure that their original story wasn't 10 hours, but you get my point. They didn't have enough stages to keep the story flowing naturally, so they cut it short as a result. Street Fighter had even less stages than that. so it looked even more ridiculous. And the story of Street Fighter is only 2 hours long. It's like you don't even have enough stages to make it flow naturally in a 2-hour story, which is mainly loading due to your fucking insane amount of jump cuts. What is wrong with you? Another huge problem that I have with the story was Feng. I fucking hate Feng. I've hated him since the day he was announced. I hated his design. I hated his voice. His fighting style was okay, but oh god, he looks so terrible. And like I've heard some people say, oh well, he looks better in his old costume. Yeah, he looks better. He still looks fucking bad though. And yet, he's practically like the main villain of the story mode. More so than Bison. Because he talks more, he's in it more, he does more things. It's crazy. It's like, what the fuck? Another problem that I have with the story mode is Necalli. Necalli is terrible. It's weird, because like not only is his story not explained very well, but he gets beaten by literally everyone. And I'm not exaggerating. If you were to go back and watch all of his fights in the story mode, he literally gets beaten and made to look like a chump. And it was just such a waste of a character. I thought he was supposed to be some sort of tribal awesome badass. Why the fuck is he getting the shit kicked out of him by literally everyone then? And finally, the biggest problem that I have with the story mode was that Ryu is the one who kills Bison in the end. Now, I've always hated that Ryu is the only one who can beat Bison, because he has no reason to want to kill Bison. Everyone else has better reasons for why they want to kill Bison. Rashid's best friend was kidnapped by Shadow Lu. He wants to get revenge on Bison. Chun-Li's dad was killed by Bison. Charlie was killed by Bison. Charlie has an obsession with Bison. You know, there are all these characters that just wanted to kill Bison so badly, and it would make so much more sense if like they all banded together to like beat him or something like that. But no, Ryu's got to do it. Ryu, who has the least grudge of any of them against Bison, is just like, yeah, I'm the one who will do it, because why the fuck wouldn't I? So overall, I personally thought the story mode was pretty bad. It had so many faults and not nearly enough positive things to make up for all of the shit. It really just shows that Capcom was rushing to get this shit done. Okay, put the game out as fast as possible and we'll make a shitty story mode later. Like, we'll just write one up and do one later. I'm sure that they had some forethought in it, but overall, this whole thing felt so fucking rushed. And it's like you had 4 months after your game was already released to make a fucking story mode, and you couldn't even do it. And it's like, when are we going to put our foot down with Capcom? The last 5 games, I think, have been fucking non-finished products that Capcom still puts out and sells at full price. And we still go out and buy them. Even though we were like, oh man, I'm never buying a Capcom product again. They would still turn around, make another unfinished product, sell it for full price, and people would still buy it. Granted, they were losing money, but still, the fact that anyone would buy their games after, like, the second time that it happened, because, like, one time, I can kind of see, like, okay, you know, we made a mistake, we goofed, we fucked up, okay, we'll do better next time. But, like, you know, as the saying goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And we've been fooled at least 5 fucking times by this company, and we still buy their products. It's like, Capcom, just make a full game for once. Just wait till a game is ready to be released, and then release it. That's all you gotta do. That's all it takes. But for whatever reason, they just can't seem to do it. And that's why I swear that from this point forward, no matter what product Capcom comes out with, I will not buy it. Alright guys, so that's just been my thoughts on the Street Fighter V story mode. Let me know what you guys think about that down in the comments. I'm Patrick, and I'll see you next time.